Yeah, what the younger generation does now, they stream and then they wait for people to join the stream.
I
So
see that.
see, with us, it was radio. It starts. It starts at 2 after. It
Right.
starts. It's a hard out at the top of the hour. Here, the new generation, they start the stream. They wait for people to come in. They retweet the stream. Just too bad radio. Radio. I don't know what's going to happen with the future of radio, but we are live streaming on the JT and Looney podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and it's great to be a football fan. It's better than being on an 0-2 team, which I know we always love to do that 0-2 broadcast. Now, over the years, this always made me feel a little bit guilty because I didn't do this, and I should have, because I would have always remembered to take vacation during baseball's All-Star Week, and I never did because I have a hard time planning ahead. You always had a daily planner, and you would look at last year's daily planner to see what you talked about. And every year for a few decades now, you've been doing your 0-2 show, which is actually isn't cheating. It's a legitimate show to do.
Well, what I started doing decades ago is I started journaling, and what I do, I'll write down, like, I journaled. Actually, the last one I did was when Dave Roberts took Ohtani out of a no-hitter, and I said, wait a second, wait, he's pitching a no-hitter, so Dad and Johnny, or Dad and little daughter Jill, had the perfect lottery ticket. They drove on the 2 freeway or the 5, and they pulled off. They had to walk uphill, and then they got to their seats, and there was a no-hitter. And the
no-hitter going by a guy who has 50 home runs.
Right. Yeah. So it's the perfect ticket stub of all time. Of all time. I'm sorry. Someone might have a Babe Ruth no-hitter hit his home run. I don't think so. And Dave Roberts said, no, we're going to bring in the pitcher in the next inning. He gives up 6 runs. And so I love how the Dodgers scrubbed it. So they had good young interns that just put out the 50 home run graphic. And
so in front of the story. Yep. And your bitchy tweet pissed me off because it was true. And it drives me crazy. With another thing that was really bad about that, it was the fewest pitches he had thrown, and he had thrown way more pitches in much fewer innings. It's the best he'd look, and he hadn't thrown that many pitches. You could have left him in all 9 innings. God damn it!
Well, I guess we can no longer get away with Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax and Nolan Ryan,
or even Oral Hershiser, right?
Yeah, they would never come out of a game, but. My whole thing that you saw there, and Mad Dog Radio put out what they call an audiogram. So after the show, they put something out. And the point I was trying to make is that we're so scared in society today. In baseball, we wanted a pitch clock, which turned out to be smart, but we wanted to speed up the game because we're afraid the millennials don't like it. So we're scared that we're going to not bring in millennials. And we're scared. And the same
Gen
thing
Y and Gen Z. Big shout out to Gen Y and Gen Z, because I know you get those all mixed up anyway. But
and what was Ohtani going to do? Blow out his arm and need Tommy John surgery because he pitched the 7th? So he could do that in the first inning. In the first inning, he can throw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, and his arm could fall off, and his career would be over.
You're right.
But we're supposed to believe after 64 pitches that we got to do it now because we're scared. We're just
and he had already thrown 89 in less innings before when he wasn't pitching very well a couple of times. And it's all hocus pocus. They don't know how many pitches cause a Tommy John injury. And can we rename it? I know Tommy John was a Yankee at one time. He was on a lot of teams. But can we speaking of younging the game up for the millennials and the Gen Ys and Z, how about renaming that Sam surgery? About on that campaign for a long time.
Absolutely. So, one other thing I just want to say about this, like the kickoffs, they have the enhanced kickoffs where they line the players up right next to each other. Well, they just lined the players back to where they were and had the rule that if you don't take it out of the end zone, you're going to get penalized and the ball's only going to go out to the 20. But if you do take it out or they kick it, if you field it, it'll go to the 35. If they use the rule for what it is, but let everybody go back to have a running start so they can tackle with speed. No, we're just scared. We're scared of lawsuits and someone might get hurt. So the Ohtani thing, taking him out, really bothered me. But getting back to the point. So I write a little journal, and that's only about a paragraph. So what happens is over the decades, I have these journals in my upstairs bedroom drawer, and I can go back to 2001 and say, what was I talking about on August 5th or October 2nd? So if I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do tonight? Something might jar my memory to say, oh, that was the night that you said this. So that was it. The 0-2 thing came up because when we were working together at Fox Sports Radio, it took me like 7 years to say Fox Sports Radio again after how they treated us. But I'm able to now say Fox Sports Radio very easily. I came up with the 0-2 show because I believe that if you go 0-2, you're done. You're dead. Now, Emmitt Smith's team was 0-2. He was holding out. He came out. They paid him. Jerry got nervous and paid him. They won the Super Bowl. But I sent you
That's
the
one people love to talk about. People love to talk about whenever there's a quarterback coming out of college who's under 6 feet tall. They always like to point to Drew Brees or like the outliers. No, don't point to the outliers. How about the history of the league? And same thing with 0-2. And we love to point when we say the preseason doesn't matter. They love to point to the Dolphins who didn't win a game the preseason the year they were undefeated. So we love to point to those outliers. But you're absolutely right. You're doomed if you're 0-2.
So, I sent you the stats and we're saying, 79% since 2020 of the teams that went 2-0. So here it is. If you started 2-0, there's a 79% chance you make the playoffs. This is since 2020. If you started 1-1, there's a 43%. If you start 0-2, it's a 12% chance you make the playoffs. And the fortunate thing now is you could still make the playoffs because they added another game. If this was 16 games, 0-2 would murder you. But now that they added the 17th game, the 0-2, you still could believe you're going to have life. And that's when we came up with this podcast. Let's talk about the teams that are on death's door, and they better win this weekend coming up here, Tom. And I know you have copious notes and you're ready to go.
Yes, I am ready to go. Matter of fact, I do have, can I put this image up? Yeah, let me see. No, I guess I can't put this image up because it would have to be you. Okay, never mind.
All right, we'll figure out how to do that.
Well, the 0-2 teams are Browns, Jets, Titans. Oh, there you go. There we go.
Look at that.
Browns, Jets, Titans, Panthers, Saints, Bears, Giants, Chiefs. And I know the cliche will be, JT, well, they all suck except the Chiefs. Well, that's true, but I think, the Chiefs were lucky last year. And I don't know if they're going to continue to be as lucky as they were this year. We know what talent they have, but boy, they were flying by the hair of their chinny chin chin last year. Or winning.
Well, I hate to do what you do. You like to play Principal Looney when you like to correct me, Principal Looney. You left off the Dolphins, and that's why we're live streaming. You left the Dolphins off, who might be 0-3 in a matter of 2 more hours here. So you put up those names, and we're going to start with the 0-2 Jets. And for everybody who's in the live stream, or if you're listening after this in podcast form, thank you, everybody, for being here. We'd like everybody to subscribe. Please hit subscribe to the JT and Looney podcast. You can subscribe to my YouTube, Looney's Instagram. It's all easy to do. Please subscribe so we can get some benefits out of this. So as we begin, I'm going to start with the Jets at 0-2. They brought in Justin Fields. He will not play this upcoming week. And holy crap, they had the right guy. They had the balls to get Aaron Glenn as the coach. They went and got the right quarterback in Justin Fields. They were going to beat the Steelers for the opener. They fumbled the kickoff return, let Aaron Rodgers come back in the game and win. And now the Jets and their fans are done again. And they were so optimistic that with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields that they get off to a good start, Tom, and they're pretty much dead. They already lost their quarterback in their 0-2.
Yeah, and it's the Jets. It's really easy to, matter of fact, what was always my rule about Sports Talk Radio? Just don't talk about the Jets. We got too many people already in Sports Talk Radio talking about the Jets. And if I was a programmer, any of their programmers, I say, you got to stop talking about the bleeping Jets, because it's all of our life. There might be a couple of throwout statistics and anomalies, but all of our life, you were wasting your hot air if you were talking about the Jets. Matter of fact, why did the Jets look so good against the Steelers? Why did the Steelers look so good against the Jets? It might be because it was the Jets, and the Steelers might not be any good. That's what we're learning after 2 weeks as well.
Yeah, I like the new head coach, Aaron Glenn, who came over from Detroit. He's a no BS type of guy, and he's basically saying we're going to fix this. It's a culture change. That's a word they use a lot, Tom.
Yes.
We're using we're using it again in Vegas, a new culture. Antonio Pierce had this tough, straight out of Compton culture. John Gruden, tough culture. Now Pete Carroll has a new culture. But I think the Jets got the right coach in Aaron Glenn. So I think the Jets, even though they're not going to make the playoffs here, have the right head coach that they brought from Dan Campbell.
So they put this graphic up here that you mentioned in the beginning. So they will come in. Do you see it there? Yeah, they will come in. Yeah, they will be the 12%. You're saying the Jets will be the 12%.
Yes, everybody that we're going to cover tonight, everybody we're going to talk about in our own 2 annual podcasts are in that category.
Okay.
So that's the focus of this today. So we begin with that. Then we'll move to the Dolphins, who are in progress now. It's a really good topic on Mike McDaniel, who came in really quirky, different dressing, very bizarre with his press conferences. And like everything in sports, the room is now tired of him. In the beginning, it was like, wow, look at this guy, how unique he is. Now Miami's going to run him out of town. But I will say, I think he's got good players. I think the Dolphins, I like Tua. I like some of their players, their wide receivers, but you can't beat Buffalo. You can't compete with Buffalo. And this is when the Dolphins should be much better than the Patriots and the Jets, and they're not. And I think that's why Mike McDaniel will be let go sooner than later.
Yeah, and I feel bad because he was the darling 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden, we're firing him 2 weeks into the season, and you can be wrong about that stuff. Belichick had the Browns, and they moved on from him. You got to be careful moving on too quickly, but this is the way the NFL works now, and in the new era, and that is hurry up and do well, or you're out.
That was a great segue by you, by the way, to the Browns. Would you like to jump into the Browns right now and get into the 0-2 Browns, who decided they're a business, right? There's a business. Yeah. You have big businesses like Amazon and Google and Bank of America and massive companies like MGM Entertainment. And the Browns let Joe Flacco be their starter. That was their decision. Okay, we're a big business. We're worth billions, and we're going to let Joe Flacco, who was great 100 years ago with the Ravens, be our starter, not Shador. And let's get some growing pains with Shador, but we're going to go with Flacco.
Yeah, the Browns have always driven everybody nuts, especially in Cleveland as well, because of the lack of talent in their organization when it comes to running an organization. And how's that Baker Mayfield doing? Oh, yeah. What if you just stuck with Baker Mayfield, who won 11 games this last year in Cleveland? How's that decision looking? That just must be driving them crazy. Not only Guardians, the former Indians and Guardians fans watch all these great players who they have just go on to other teams and do well. Browns fans got to go through the same thing in football that the Guardians and former Indians had to do in baseball, and their fans is watch great players come through town and then go on to win with other teams.
All right, let's move to the Houston Texans, a bit of a surprise at 0-2. Good team the last couple of years. I thought drafting C.J. Stroud was a really smart move, but by default, they were winning that division that had the Colts, the Jags, the Titans. So just by showing up, the Houston Texans were winning the division because their quarterback was really good. Now they're off to an 0-2 start, and I'm looking at their differential. They're -8, 28 points scored, 34 given up here. They haven't won a game yet. I think they'll be okay because of the division that they're in, but if they were in the AFC West or the North, I'd almost stick a fork in them right now. The only thing that's going to save them, Tom, is they're playing in the AFC South, and Daniel Jones is on top of the division. I say again, Daniel Jones is not only on top of the division, he's playing effing great, and the Colts are 2-0 and look like world beaters.
Yeah, they do. Texans have better quarterback, better coach, you would assume, of all of these teams that can come back with a wink and out of the Chiefs from 0-2 and make some noise later on in the season. It would be the Houston Texans.
Yeah, next team we'll go to quickly is the Titans. This one's fascinating to me. Their road opener was at Denver. So they opened up on the road at Denver and had Denver beat. And out here, Circa Survivor, that's the biggest super contest to play Survivor, where you pick a team and you can only pick it once. Once you pick that team to win, you can't pick that team again. Like tonight, people didn't want to pick the Bills over the Dolphins because they want to save the Bills for later on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Circa Survivor would have crashed, contest over, burned if the Titans beat the Broncos,
Right.
and they had the ball late with an opportunity to win the game. They lost that game. Then they had their home opener and lost. They're throwing out Cam Ward. You're a good guy to explain this to or ask this opinion. You didn't watch a lot of Cam Ward when he was at Miami, other than when he played Syracuse. And now you're not watching a lot of Cam Ward because Tom Looney doesn't sit at home and watch Titan games. So what do you think here?
Well, I'm happy now that one of the great things the NFL is doing is they're getting quarterbacks out early, and they're using the court. At least they're starting out with the quarter. Some of the stuff from the quarterback system in college and high school that makes them look good. They used to just make them do their system and just ignore whatever they did in college, which gives them a better start and a better psychological start to their career. And I've kind of liked what he's looked like so far. And he's not going to, he's down at the bottom in terms of my trusted quarterback rating, where new quarterbacks tend to be. But so far, I've liked what I've seen, the small bites that I've seen him in highlights.
Yeah, 0-2, they're going nowhere. Okay, fair enough. 0-2, they're going nowhere. And then finally, the reason for the 0-2 annual podcast, the Kansas City Chiefs are 0-2.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs went to Sao Paulo, Brazil, where they weren't allowed out of their room. And I would know this because my son represents one of the players, markets one of the players. And imagine getting a trip of a lifetime. A trip of a lifetime. You're flying on an NFL charter, all the food, the steak, the movies. You land, police escort to the hotel, and then they say, don't leave. Don't leave because the amount of people that can do damage to you are right outside the hotel. So stay in lockdown. Yeah, true story. Go play the game, get on the bus and fly home. They lost to the Chargers. And then those scoundrels in the NFL office gave them the Eagles for their home opener. And now they play the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, the Giants, who we're going to get to coming up, that had the Cowboys beat. Russell Wilson threw for 450 yards. But, Tom, your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs? They've won 5 straight
the New York
AFC.
Giants is that the Kansas City Chiefs will beat the New York Giants, and then they'll psychologically get out of that hole, and they'll start playing better. The New York Giants aren't going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And a shout out to Brazil. My brother lived in Brazil for 7 years. He's still with us. He's still fine. He was a white guy living in Brazil for years, and he was just fine and loved it. Nevertheless, I think the Giants will be the slump buster that the Kansas City Chiefs need.
So you're not concerned on the 0-2 start for Kansas City after watching in your backyard with the Hollywood sign right over your shoulder, Justin Herbert and the 2-0 Chargers. They got a 2-game lead on the Chiefs after 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, that Chargers defense looks annoying and oppressive, and they're going to make quarterbacks look bad, and people are mocking Geno Smith. Well, remember, we're going to be mocking whoever the Chargers play, whatever quarterback is going up against the Chargers, the way that they're playing, because Jim Harbaugh changes a culture when he comes to a team immediately. And we've got a lot of proof of that in the past at Stanford, Michigan, and the San Francisco 49ers. So in a macro sense, I'm worried for the Chiefs because of the way they played last year as well. And you can't just eke out the way they eked out those victories that shouldn't have been victories last year. They were champions. They played and won games that they shouldn't. That's what champions do. But that can't go on forever. They're like the old Muhammad Ali right now, just eking out decisions sometimes that they don't deserve.
38 points for them, 47 given up. That's a -9 differential. Very shocking for Kansas City.
Kellerman would love that analogy, by the way.
It was a very good analogy.
Thank you.
Analogy radio. So we just got through the AFC. And again, to recap for those joining us during the Bills and Dolphins halftime, we greatly appreciate that. And those who are listening later in podcast form, your 0-2 teams are the Chiefs, the Titans, the Texans, the Browns. This is the AFC, the Dolphins and the Jets. I put a fork in the Jets, the Dolphins, the Browns. I think and the Titans. I think the Texans and Kansas City Chiefs will both survive the 0-2 and be playoff caliber teams. Maybe Houston doesn't get in, but they get close. And I think Kansas City will find their way into a wild card. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, and I know in the pre-show meeting they said don't do frickin' frack radio where you disagree with everything JT says. Just agree with everything JT says. I said okay, because a lot of shows they just disagree to disagree when they don't even believe it. But when you're phony on the radio, sooner or later it's exposed. but the Texans, but I fully agree with you. The Texans, because of the division that they're in, and the Chiefs because of the organization, the coaching, and the quarterback that they have.
All right, let's move to the NFC. We'll start in the East. We're the only team with in the division, the East, that hasn't won of the Giants. That game, I watched a lot of it against the Cowboys. They had the game won. They were the better team. Russell Wilson threw a daisy cutter bomb, threw for 450, which is a sick number, an insane number at that stage, proving he should be the quarterback, not Jackson Dart. He couldn't throw for 450, let alone 250. But the Giants gave one away, man, and they would have been 1-1, and the Cowboys would have been 0-2, which would have got us better ratings here tonight. Our numbers would have bumped if the Cowboys were 0-2. But what do you think? The Giants brought in Russell Wilson to just hold the seat for Jackson Dart. I think by that great performance, he'll keep the seat for a couple more weeks before the Giants make that quarterback change.
And if you'll remember, Kurt Warner, near the end of his career, bounced around. And he went to the Giants. And remember, then he took the Arizona Cardinals to the Super Bowl because people in New York were too dumb to realize what they had in their hands. Hopefully they won't be this time with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had some games like this last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers where he made those fans really happy that they switched to him midway through the season. And I've always been a big believer in Russell Wilson, the way he came into the league so young and tore it up and has great escape skills and not as good as they used to be, but in crunch time, as you throwing bombs at crunch time. So I've always been a big believer in Russell Wilson. People get on him because he's square. What's wrong with square? What's wrong with somebody who doesn't swear? Come on. My mother would say, hang around that guy. So Russell Wilson, I think that Russell Wilson will be the difference in digging the Giants out of the hole if they get out of it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get out. Their schedule is crazy. The scoundrels on Park Avenue, the NFL is located on Park Avenue. Those scoundrels gave the Giants, this is sick. This is absolutely insane. They gave the Giants 2 road games to start the season at Jaden Daniels and the Commanders and at the Cowboys. And then they said, oh, okay, your home opener is going to be Kansas City. I mean, like, who was in that office? Park Avenue is the closest the crow flies, about 12 miles to East Rutherford. Who said in that room, excuse me, I got an uncle who's a Giants season ticket holder. Can we change that game? So if the Giants beat Kansas City, because I'll go back to Circa Survivor where people will pick Kansas City to win. If the Giants beat Kansas City, which is possible, they have Brian Burns. They have Malik Neighbors. They have Russell Wilson. They got Scatman. They got good players. If they do, Kansas City's done. 0-3, that little chapter in our NFL history is effing done. So I'm going to really tune into that game because anybody can beat anybody any given Sunday, the cliche. Kansas City better hope at the end of the third quarter it ain't 14-10 or 17-14 and the Giants have life. Just keep in mind.
I just think when Kansas City does lose, they're going to lose to better teams than the New York Giants, and there's a lot of better teams coming up on their schedule.
Okay, the next team to me is the most fascinating 0-2 team. The most fascinating by far. No one's even close, even Kansas City. It's the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
I'm doing a new podcast with Rod Woodson, the Hall of Famer, and we're talking about this last night, and he goes, this is getting interesting because Ben Johnson was the hot candidate to be the head coach. Everybody wanted him.
Yep.
Everybody. He picks the Bears because he wanted to win in the division against Detroit. Careful what you wish for. Detroit's in that division with another team, Tom, called the Packers, my NFC Super Bowl pick, and Minnesota, who's pretty good. But Ben Johnson didn't want to go to Vegas and live on a golf resort with great weather. He wanted to do it different. He wanted to go to Chicago. Caleb Williams and him clashing. Caleb is not who he should be. I'm a Caleb fan. He went to Oklahoma when my son went there, and you watched him at SC.
I watched him live at SC. It was great.
This is starting to feel like a separation or a divorce. Something's happening early, and if they don't win, they're playing the Cowboys. They're playing the Cowboys at home. And as I said earlier, this is a team the Chicago fans know late in the season, their tickets, they're going to have to put gloves on and hats and mats, and they're going to be freaking freezing. Now they're in nice pullover cardigan sweaters, and they're drinking cocktails, and they're in the sun, and they're pissed. Tom Looney, do you see a problem here with the Bears at 0-2? I think it's a red alert.
Well, a couple of things. The problem is Caleb Williams got chosen by the Chicago Bears. That's the downside of when you're squeaky clean, and he comes from a squeaky clean family and a squeaky clean guy, and the only thing you find that's wrong with him is the color of his nails. Like back in the day when people would think earrings or music or bell bottoms, it's always something with another generation that has people whining with it. That's the worst you can find. And on your award-winning podcast, the other one, Rod Woodson said, he said that he blamed the coach. Remember, the coach was talking about bad practices. He said, "Come on, you've been practicing all summer." So I loved that. He had the players back, and I liked that. And he had a good point because I hadn't heard anybody else say that. That's why your podcast with him is so good, because he knows his football, and he knows how to watch it, express it, break it down into a microphone. And so sometimes guys who are geniuses. How'd that Bill Arnsparger work out back in the day with the Giants? I mean, he was a great coordinator. He was always a great coordinator. Great with other teams. Great with the Bills. But he was a lot of great coordinators in this league were one-time head coaches, and they bombed at head coaches. And this might be another one. It might not be Caleb Williams' fault at all.
One more plug for Rod Woodson. Interesting story. So Rod's one of the most cerebral guys I know. Mm-hmm. Really cerebral and smart. So Eric Allen finally got into the Hall of Fame. Eric went in with 54 interceptions, which is an enormous number. 54 way up there. So I'm talking to Rod, and I go, "Rod, how many did you have?" He goes, 72. And I go, "Oh my God." I go, 72. And Rod was one of the greatest safeties of all time and one of the greatest corners of all time. Charles Woodson went from corner to safety. Rod went from corner to safety. So when Rod talks, people listen. So the name of the podcast is Laying the Wood. It was the Rod Woodson podcast with JT the Brick. And then we came up with Laying the Wood because it's Rod Woodson.
Well,
okay.
That caught me today. I saw a reel on Instagram, and it was Joe Rogan, then JT the Brick. It was great. and you and Rod Woodson, and my algorithm knows me. And then it was something about bodybuilding, and then it was anyway. I want to see what the other
and the reel wasn't Joe talking about vaccinations or RFK. So it was very good that it broke through to you.
It was
very
a smarter one. Yeah, it was a smarter one. Well, I think he's a lot like Larry King. He doesn't always challenge his guests, but he gets great guests, and he talks about and he lists. He's a great talk show host. He pays attention to everything as good talk show hosts need to. They need to be savants. He's a savant. But nevertheless, people get mad at one podcast, but if you watch more of them, he's good and he has great people on.
Definitely.
Back to yours, Woodson made me realize, stop and look at that more objectively when I was worried, that it was the quarterback, because I love how he plays.
There's only two other teams left in the NFL that are 0-2, and they're both in the same division, the NFC South, where Baker Mayfield's 2-0 and had an unbelievable drive in Houston. He ran on a 4th and 10 and got a first down.
I love watching him.
So the last two teams first are the New Orleans Saints at 0-2. God, they're a train wreck. Wow. They wanted to run Derek Carr out of there. Friend of the show, Derek Carr. Spetler Rattler's the quarterback. Kellen Moore's the coach. I have a really different topic for us to do on the side, the Arch Manning podcast, because Arch Manning could not be playing any worse. Could not play any worse in Texas, but I would draft him number 1 overall. Number 1, even this bad, because he could play for New Orleans, where he's from.
Oh my God!
Where his grandpa still lives, and he could go to New Orleans, and they could park him for 2 years, and they'd have Arch effing Manning, and he's going to eventually be really good because he was better than Eli in high school, and like Uncle Peyton, he's going to be fine. But New Orleans is 0-2, Tom, and they have no upside. They're just playing for the first pick in the draft, I believe. Do you have any comments on the New Orleans Saints, as they're one of our 0-2 teams?
Well, yeah, I don't want to talk too long about the New Orleans Saints, because otherwise producers in our ear will say, stop talking about the Saints. But I do think that when the thing about Manning is, do Peyton and Eli have any kids? Because this would be like if there was the Three Stooges and Shemp had a son. But we want to see Mo or Larry's kid on the show, and not necessarily. This is Shemp's son. Do Peyton and Eli have any boys yet? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah, I know that Peyton has a boy that he takes on all his trips with him. Peyton does, and Cooper. Okay. Cooper obviously has Arch. Cooper, who's also another big guy. They didn't keep you and me on the Fox lot, but they kept Cooper.
They kept a lot of Coopers.
Yeah. But I don't see much with New Orleans here. And then the last team is Carolina, which is very unique. They almost came back against Arizona, who's sneaky good. I love that term. I've been using it all year, like some host who can't name players and they say the left guard's really good. The one thing I've been saying all year is Arizona's sneaky good, but just want to say
I talked to two GMs today. They told me that Arizona was sneaky good.
Yeah, but I want to end with Carolina. Carolina's 0-2. Look, I don't really think they're going to do much at all. But Carolina's got some good players. I think they got a decent coach. It's Bill Callahan's son, who I saw and met and kind of know a little bit. He knows me. We're not besties, but I know him well.
How old was he when you were first working with the Raiders?
Yeah,
Callahan was his dad was the coach. How old was that kid?
He's probably 10, 12, 13 years old when he was around the Raiders.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's the head coach now in Carolina. They're an 0-2 team that's kind of getting lost. They're just lost. The market's weird. There are fans there. It's like Jacksonville. There are Jaguar fans. There are Panther fans. They're not going to show up if you don't win. If you lose, then they're just going to stay away. And if you win with Cam Newton or Mark Brunell did in Jacksonville, they'll show up and sell out. So I don't have much to say about Carolina, but I clicked on their schedule because they're 0-2, and their next game is home against Atlanta. They're at New England. They play Miami, who we're watching tonight. They're going to get a win here and get off the schneid, as we like to say in sports.
Now, I always like to use the pyramids analogy. If you're a fan of pyramids and you go to Giza and see the pyramids, or you go down south to Oaxaca in Mexico and take a look at the pyramids, you'll never see anybody with a Carolina Panthers shirt or Jacksonville Jaguars shirt or an Angels shirt or Clippers shirt. So there's certain teams that just aren't going to show up if you're not winning, and it's one of those four. And it's you got right in those markets. They deserve better than they've got, both in basketball and football in Carolina.
Yeah, I think Carolina is there, and Carolina will win a couple of games, but they're not going to be a playoff. So in review, in our passionate 0-2 podcast, we do this every year. And we look back on it. The only teams that are 0-2 that I think have what we call a puncher's chance, and Canelo didn't have a puncher's chance because Crawford was too good. We'll wrap with that in a minute. The only teams that I think that can come back from 0-2 would be Kansas City at 0-2. I think they have the ability to come back. Houston at 0-2. And all the teams in the NFC, including the Giants, the Bears, the Saints, and the Panthers, I do not think that can come back. So just the Texans and the Chiefs are the only teams that still have life.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing would be if it wasn't the Texans and Chiefs, who else? And that would be the head scratcher with all this other dreck that's 0-2. That would be the head scratcher. You were at a fight that had the biggest crowd to ever watch any event at Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. Matter of fact, the biggest crowd to ever watch anything at Staples Center where the Lakers play has been a fight. And the same thing there. And I think, 40 million people on Netflix. What an incredible event that you went to.
It was that good. I brought my sons. I tweeted out the photo. Both my sons walked in with me, and we went up to the Torch where I host the pregame show, and we had a beverage together. And then my sons went to their seats, and you're going to love this. You're going to love it. I went to the floor. And I'm going to say this. I was going to say this for the first time. I was not happy with the credential process. That flew. I'm not going to put a fork in myself and say anything bad live. I wasn't happy with the credential process. So I did what JT does and all my great friends, Jimmy B and Bobby G and Tom Looney. I said, you know what? I'm going to walk to the floor. I'm not going to say I'm JT the Brick. I work in the building. I'm not going to say I borrow a wristband from someone else or cheat. I'm just going to walk to the front. And I walked to the front. And then I did my look at the ring. I saw Sofia Vergara.
Wow.
I mean,
in person.
Amazing. Wow. Saw a bunch of people there. And then I walked back, found a chair that was empty because people have to go to the bathroom in life. So they get out of their seat. I stood and sat in a seat, and then I had to move once. I moved back about 20 rows to an empty seat, and I watched the fight. Great event. I mean, star-studded. Mike Tyson got the biggest ovation, as always. Always. And then,
but by the way, that's such an amazing thing, because there were a lot of famous people at that fight, more than I've seen maybe ever.
Yeah, there was Charlize Theron got a big ovation. Sofia Vergara, the beautiful women there, but the guys who were there, were getting decent ovations, but nothing like Tyson. But
Sylvester Stallone always gets an amazing ovation.
Yeah, and so the key to the fight, which is the new thing I've been saying since a guy named Floyd Mayweather came into boxing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it wasn't a great fight was two reasons: no memorable punch, no memorable round. So. Follow me for a second. In every great fight, not everything has to be Hagler Hearns, 3 minutes of just freaking chaos. Not everything has to be Frazier. Remember, he broke Ali's jaw, put him to the ground. That was a memorable punch,
right?
In an iconic
Maybe
fight.
The most memorable ever. Yep.
Absolutely. Sugar Ray's finish.
The biggest fight ever. Yeah.
Sugar Ray's finish against Hagler, where Hagler, a lot of people said Hagler won the fight, but Sugar Ray was the better showman. There were many rounds. This fight, Bud Crawford, and I was there for it, didn't have a memorable punch, and he connected on a few that were good punches. Don't get me wrong. He connected. Not a memorable round. So you cannot put that many people into a football stadium and break attendance records and not have a great epic fight. Yeah. There was nothing epic about the performance other than people who said, and our buddy Cool Breeze told me, he goes, man, he loved the fight. I go, why? He goes, tacticianally, Bud Crawford was amazing on how he did it. Well, I said, I've seen Floyd do that 100 times too, but it's not memorable.
Well, you're both right. That is, but a lot of times, as we know, for a fans fight is different from when you're bringing in everyone else to the store. A lot of them for the first time, a lot of them in a live fight for the first time, and hundreds and millions of people watching on Netflix for the first time because they didn't have to pay $89.95. It gets hard to grow a sport in pay-per-view, so it was really smart. But the problem is with even like we saw that with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. It was a tactical fight. Only people who love the sweet science like to watch a chess match like that. This is for people who like to watch chess matches in boxing. It was great. They were great, but it was not a great fight when it comes to entertainment value. You and I have seen way too many 12-round decisions. Way too many. Oh my God, with the 12-round decisions. And the fights that ended 12-round decisions suck even when they're great, because you'd love to see someone go down or someone go out. And when neither one happens, because I think when someone gets knocked down in a fight, it's the most exciting thing there is in sports, is the way it catches you, the unscripted drama. But I agree as far as entertainment value, that sucks. As far as people who love boxing purists, it was great.
Last thing on that, before we wrap it up, the cool thing about Vegas and not Dallas and not, I would say New York, obviously, because the Garden. In LA, yes, but LA, they go at 1:15 at night, please go home. And you're like, wait a second, this fight didn't start until almost midnight Eastern.
Oh my God, you're right.
And so, but one thing about Vegas on these super fights, holy cow, we had Monday Night Football. Remember, they had to clear out that stadium. And anything can happen. A crane can fall over. They bring cranes into a football stadium to take down certain things. They don't do it by hand and wrenches. They had to go from Saturday night. The fight went way too late. One of our mutual friends in the boxing world told me, he goes, big mistake. The fight ended too late. It did. It ended late Pacific time. Imagine East Coast. Half the people turned it off on the East.
Yep.
Yeah. They had to clear out that stadium and get it ready for Monday Night Football. And they don't get Monday Night Football ready, Tom, 2 hours before the game starts. Right. So they worked all overnight Saturday night, all Sunday overnight, all Monday in the morning till the afternoon to bring in the football field on a tray that sits outside and get that thing ready. And then Monday Night Football, the Raiders and the Chargers, and that thing popped and looked incredible on television. Yep. So the fight was okay because after it ended, we were in Vegas, and it was a pretty memorable night after that.
That is true. All those great nights after the fights, I remember those so well. And a lot of times they don't like to start those before 8:15 Pacific, contractually at 11:15 Eastern. That's a secret I learned from Freddie Roach. But they don't like them to start that late. And the problem with boxing is there's a 3-minute clock, but you don't know how long the preliminary fights are going to go. And if they all go too long, it screws you over for the main event.
Right now we have 723 people in here. It's a combination of X and a combination of YouTube on my channels. But I want to thank everybody because this has evolved into some video and no technical issues, knock wood. I just got a text from my wife. When are you done? I made salmon. So I'm going to wrap this up because my wife made salmon tonight. And we're going to have salmon and I'm going to have a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon. And I'm going to watch the end of this game. And then I'm going to watch part 2 of Charlie Sheen. Oh, my God, part 1.
I heard it's good.
If you watch part 1, I'll just give you one clue on this. I'm not going to ruin it. It's Charlie Sheen. When they showed him riding his bikes as a boy and running on the beaches with his friends, it was in Malibu.
Mm-hmm.
At that time in Malibu, there was one grocery store. There were no buildings. It was like me living in Massapequa, Long Island. Right. It's before Malibu had Nobu and had Dukes and had big structures. And all the guys who were riding their bikes and running around before they got into heavy drugs and acting, it was Sean Penn, Chris Penn, who was probably the best actor of all of them early, Chris Penn, Sean Penn's brother. It was Emilio Estevez, who wanted to keep the name. Charlie said Charlie Sheen sounds better. And it was Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
And they're running around Malibu, and they got a little bit of a head start in acting. Martin Sheen was in Apocalypse Now and all that.
Oh, my God.
It didn't hurt him.
Their father had been in the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't get readings for Chris Penn and Sean Penn. And, anyway.
And guess what? Rob Lowe's dad was a janitor or something. Rob Lowe's dad was the poorest of all of that crew. So he really didn't come from much.
So when you watch that and then see how they all started reading, Charlie Sheen's big break was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Mm-hmm. And he got a call from Jennifer Grey, who said, "Get down here quick. I think you're perfect for the part." Just a phone call. They didn't have cell phones. If he didn't pick up the house phone, he doesn't go down there, right?
You're right.
And in episode 1, when Sean Penn looks into the camera, because he's quirky. I'm a big Sean Penn actor fan. He looks in the camera and starts to talk about, and when Charlie did drugs, when he started doing it, you could tell he liked it a lot more than we did. And then the Nicolas Cage, who's right there too, not Malibu, but in the valley, when he and Charlie connect as teenagers, it's brilliant. Now, part 2 is about him getting HIV, tiger blood, winning, putting more drugs in him than any human being, including Motley Crue. I'm going to watch that later on tonight.
I did watch How to Rob a Bank, which is on Netflix, which is incredible. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh, so good. How to Rob a Bank. And last night I watched Pumping Iron, which I'm always the king of watching something that came out years ago, aren't I? But Pumping Iron, which I finally saw for the first time sober, which is outstanding.
If this schedule fits you, I think our audience is going to like us doing the live stream during halftime of Thursday Night Football, because even Al Michaels knows it doesn't get a big number. So we might as well get a good number if Al's not getting a good number. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the 0-2 JT and Looney podcast.